Hi, I'm Carolina from the Goulburn Murray Landcare Network. I'm the Biodiversity Officer and we're here today to look at some of the works that are done on farm. This is up in Coonamoo and it really highlights the biodiversity work that has been done on farm for the past 20 years or more. And we did works there a couple of years ago and you can really see the difference. And this will benefit insects, stock, birds and just in general making a connection between the two remnant patches on that property. So I hope you enjoy, and the project is supported by the Golden Broken CMA and the Australian Federal Government. Thanks.
It was done in 2003. It was a project to link up remnant bush. The idea was to link it up from the river frontage about 5 k's east of here to the frontage about 1 k north of here. It was one section of the link. It was direct seeded. It's the most successful direct seeding we've done. It was a wet year that year, which helped. It primarily attracted. Well, the idea was to attract small birds. There was an existing road there which had a lot of red gum and nothing else. And all it had in it were the larger birds you'd normally find, parrots and magpies and miners. And so now having all the little wattles and the shrubby trees there, scrubby ones, we've got lots of little birds in there. We've got babblers that are nesting just over here and they're in the plantation behind us.
Do the babblers tend to nest just as pairs? Have you seen those numbers build up over time?
Generally see them in groups of 5 to 7. Very occasionally you'll get a bigger mob, like a dozen or 20, but mostly we've got about 4 separate little family groups on the property.
Yeah.
in that sort of 5, 6 or 7 birds.
And the planting you did on the hill that has quite a bit of Banksia in there, when was that planted? And was that tube stock?
That was tube stock. It was a mixture of tube stock and direct seeding. So the Banksia and the Murray pine, and I think there's some bull oaks up there. They were all tube stock, but all the mulga wattle, all the wattles were essentially direct seeded. And that, because we had success here with the direct seeding, I tried a few other places and didn't have a great success rate. Really depended on having a wet spring. And up there it was very dependent on the soil type. So the further we moved up the sandhill, as the soil got lighter, the success rate with the direct seeding fell away.
And the one we did last year was tube stock, and that was explain what it was linking from and to, and you're thinking about why you wanted to do that one. That was 1 kilometre long.
Yeah, so that one was linking 2 watercourses, the Sheepwash Creek and the Alupna Creek. And it was 1 kilometre that had along a fence line that had one mature box tree in it, and it's a bit of there's not a lot of shelter for stock in that part of the farm either, so I thought it'd be a good opportunity to kill 2 birds with the one stone. And that's the beauty of this one too. It's created a real good zone for stock to shelter in when it's wet and windy. I mean, the trees will stop a bit of wind, but the low down shrubs really sort of stop them. And yeah, quite often, like when there's a wet afternoon or a wet night, you'll find the stock way up against these trees here, getting shelter from them. So yeah, that's one of the bonuses we've found from it.
And as a non-farmer, how does that benefit in their condition in the end?
Yeah, well, they don't get stressed so much in an adverse weather event like that. It gives them somewhere to be a little bit safe and less exposed. And it's the cutting down the wind. Not that we're terribly windy here and we get really bad weather like further down south, but yeah, it's certainly, if they're there using it, then it's obviously some benefit to them.
And when I first came here, you'd been through some very dry times and it was looking pretty drought condition, to what it looks like 1 year later is pretty phenomenal. So what's your response to that one?
That's Australia.
Yeah,
that's what it does.
That's what farming is, going with the conditions.
No, that's just how it works here. It can be dusty and wet in 1 year. in the year.
But it's a good result so far.
Yeah, and we were lucky last year after all the tube stock was put in last year between those two paddocks that we had a wetish spring. So wet that we didn't have to water them over summer, which was great because that's the pros and cons of direct seeding and tube stock. I like the idea of direct seeding because once they're in, you don't have to worry about them. No guards, no watering, and if you get that good strike, then that's great. But